gentlemen, may I have your attention, please? The show starts in 3, 2, 1, go.
Good morning, CaneSport. It's August the 30th, 2022. I'm Gary Ferman, the publisher of CaneSport.com, joined as always by our managing editor, Matt Shodell, as we discuss the news of the day, presented as always by Life Wallet, where the time is now to take charge of your personal health, and the countdown continues. Canes fans, we're getting closer and closer to Saturday. I've been to a couple of the stores this week. They're all fired up. Lots of people coming in to buy merchandise. People are making their tailgate plans, and nobody seems to care that the opponent is Bethune-Cookman College, a team that shouldn't pose too much of a challenge, obviously, for the Miami Hurricanes on Saturday. Matt Shodell, you've gone from owning the internet and controlling the internet to creating all sorts of havoc on the internet. Took a lot of shots in the last 24 hours on the message boards at CaneSport.com. It sounds like people are growing a little bit fatigued of your negativity, my man. I mean, this is the start of the Mario Cristobal era, okay? It is a new dawning at Miami. People know this program is going to be back to playing for national championships in the very near future. You are missing the train, my friend, and people have had about enough of it, okay? They don't want to hear that this team's only winning 7 games or 8 games this year. They want to hear 9, 10, 11. They want to hear positivity. They are fired up. Hard Rock is going to be jamming on Saturday, and it is time now here on Tuesday morning, August the 30th, 2022, as we discuss the news of the day, to jump on board.
Yeah, listen, nobody wants to be on the Matt Shodell negativity train. I don't want to be on the Matt Shodell negativity train. I don't care if people don't watch the show because of me. I don't care. You know, that's up to you. You can get rid of me. I don't
want to talk to nobody every morning. Bite your tongue, man.
You reach a certain age where basically your body's dead and just your mind is what's keeping you alive. I'm at that point as a reporter/fan. I mean, you can't be both, right? You can't be a reporter and a fan. I try to keep my reporter hat on most of the time. And reporters by nature are miserable, expletive, inserted here, human beings. That's a reporter's job pretty much is to challenge authority, to challenge what you're being told, to challenge the status quo, and to see if something pops out, you know? And you know, I guess, I don't know if you consider yourself a fan reporter or reporter fan. I don't really know how to quantify myself. I like it when Miami wins, but I think it would be unprofessional for any reporter to say that they're just a fan. There was a game, and I won't say who it was, but it was against FSU, and you can't cheer in the press box. You can't wear a Miami shirt in the press box. You will get kicked out, and there's a reason for it. There's supposed to be a level of professionalism. And the line's gotten so blurred by the CNN and Fox Newses of the world and the talking heads, and nobody reports news anymore. And it's translated over to sports where fans expect us to just be homers and just say what they want to hear and feed into their little mantras that make them enjoy their eggs in the morning better and go to sleep, after drinking their kombuchas at night and have a restful night's sleep, not worrying about their favorite college team. But like, I'm not here to make your kombucha taste better, or, you know, I'm here to put some sour cream in your eggs, man. Like, I'm just going to tell you guys, like, what I think is going on in the real world, not in the little fantasy world of Gary Ferman and his minions, okay? And I saw some troubling things in fall practice that I didn't love. I've heard some troubling things that everything is not amazing and it's not the greatest team in the world. And guess what? It's not Mario Cristobal's fault. I still believe this is a 2 to 4 year playoff team, which is great. I don't know why people think that's negative. That's just how I feel. And there's nothing wrong with me believing that. I think it's true. I wouldn't say it if I didn't think it was true. And I think this is an 8 to 9 win team. I think there will be an
Oh,
upset
that's
of Miami.
reasonable.
I think there'll be a game
I'm
where
saying
Miami.
9.
I think there'll be a game where Miami's favored that they will lose this year. Fans are going to go nuts. Oh my gosh. How can a guy who covers the Miami Hurricanes say that? Well, it's because I'm putting on my reporter hat right now. Do you want my fan hat? My fan hat says they win 10 games. Because if everything goes perfect, if nothing from the last 20 years that's been an issue crops up with Manny Diaz's recruits who are still 60+% of this team, and fans want to live in like a little daydream world where all of a sudden somehow these are Mario Cristobal's recruits because he's coached them for 9 months. Guess what? All of 30 practices he's had them. He's had
That's
them
a
for
good point
30
right there.
practices. 30.
That's a good
30.
point. That is a
So,
good
people
point.
expect miracles out of 30 practices. I mean, I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt. If I expected 10 and 11 wins like the rest of the nation, the fan nation, okay, then I would be very disappointed. I'd be very angry at Mario Cristobal. Well, what happened? You were supposed to win 10 games. You won 8 or 9. I'm trying to set the expectations where I think it's reasonable. The reasonable expectation for any objective person looking at this team, looking at the last 20 years, looking at the roster, looking at the gaps in the roster, looking at the transfers that came in are great, but these aren't, I want to say Manti Te'o because I watched that documentary. And let me tell you something. I'm not, obviously I don't like Notre Dame, and I don't know if that's because, that's a fan thing or not. I just don't like Notre Dame, okay? For whatever reason, I'm not going to get into it. But I felt bad for Manti Te'o watching that documentary. Nothing was his fault. Like that poor guy, man, I feel bad for him. But my point is, if you're trying to be objective about things and see the truth of the matter, you're on the Matt Shodell gravy train, baby. 8 or 9 wins. You can't be upset because if they get to 8 or 9 wins, which I think they will fairly easily with the schedule, you'll be like, okay, we're on track. And if they don't, you're going to freak out. What's going on? The sky's falling. And when that happens, man, when that negativity gets out there, it hurts the program because all the recruits are in South Florida and they hear it. They hear fans on Twitter. They hear fans on message boards saying, what the heck happened? This was the easiest schedule. Everyone said we're going to win 10 games. We're ranked in the top 15 of the nation. We wound up ranked 25th. Like, wake up, man. It's better to have lower expectations, be pleasantly surprised. And you know what? If you are pleasantly surprised, great. But if not, we can't get into that rut where fans think something's wrong because the expectations set by Gary Ferman were too high. You're ruining the freaking program, Ferman.
I'm going to pay homage to one of our most loyal subscribers, my man, Jay Collette. And I'm going to tell you that I think we all can walk and chew gum. I think we can have some reality. And I think we can do honest analysis. And I think that we can also predict what I'm predicting, which is 9 victories this year. And I do think they have a chance at Texas A&M. I agree with you that there's going to be a game, maybe even 2 games this year, where things just don't go well, where they don't get big plays down the field, where maybe they have a turnover or 2. It's a tight game in the fourth quarter, and the bounces just don't go their way. That's reality. That's everybody in the country.
Am I rubbing off on you? Like, what has happened to you? What have I done to Gary Ferman?
I think we could do both. I don't think you have to be negative. I think, and if you're saying 8 or 9, that's not negative to me.
But this is the first time I've ever heard you say the ball might bounce the wrong way and we might lose a game that we're not supposed to. I've never heard you say that before.
I've been saying it all fall. I've been saying it all fall. I'm concerned with
my mental wavelength.
No, I've been saying it very consistently because that's to me the biggest problem that this team has is a lack of playmakers down the field, home run threats, and that's how you get out of Dodge. In games where you're not playing so well and you have adversity and things don't go your way. You have a playmaker make a big play that turns the game. I think this offense is going to have to be very station to station. And, I think there'll be weeks where they're just better and it works out. And then I think there'll be weeks where they're in tight games into the fourth quarter where anything can happen. And you're not going to win every single one of those. I've never seen it. I've seen very few teams win every single one of those. Even the 2017 Miami Hurricanes, who won every single one of those up to 10-0, it all caught up to them in the last few games of the season. So, but I do think that we can walk and chew gum, and that's what I'm trying to do. And I think honestly, if you're based on what you said, I think you made a great point about the 30 practices. And yeah, they've had team sessions and stuff in the off season, but in terms of hard, full tackle, full pads type of practices, they've really probably only had about 20. And Matt makes a great point. It's very hard to turn an entire culture, an entire program in 20 practices with predominantly the same personnel. So we'll see what happens. We're going to know a lot more September the 17th, and we'll see how that goes. But, so maybe everybody, maybe go a little easier on Matt here these next few weeks.
I don't care. Everyone hates me anyway. What does it matter?
I feel bad for you. You're taking an absolute beating. I mean, this guy Norm Smith totally went off on you today on the message boards, and I'm like,
fine.
Whoa, man. Yeah,
listen,
he goes off on me a lot too, so it doesn't matter. But he just likes to do that.
There's a little disconnect between I think that people on the message boards just expect us to be homers, and that's not what you get from Matt Shodell.
Well, that's not doing our job. Our job is to give the fan base an honest assessment of where things are and try to be as right as we possibly can.
Well, I've always been right, but I still take a beating, and that's just because of my personality. People just don't like this. They don't like this. They don't like what they see. But listen, for somebody who wants bright spots, okay, this is a bright spot. I'll give you some positivity. I love this. So Mario Cristobal in his, pre-first game interview, I don't know what you call it, yesterday, he was asked by some intrepid reporter who was really wanting to get after the most important part of the team. Who's your punt returner, coach? And the answer to me was very revealing, believe it or not, because he mentioned two players who I don't think are going to be available or should not be really available that often to return punts. Xavier Restrepo and Tyreek Stevenson. They have their hands full being leaders on their respective sides of the ball. And guess what? Mario Cristobal said there's three guys. That's it. He said there's three guys. He literally said three. And guess who the third guy is? A true freshman, Malik Curtis, which I love because it's finally showing that instead of these idiot coaches, they're not idiots, but these coaches in the past, we just want a guy who will catch the ball. They literally would say, if he could average like 5 or 6 yards on a return, we're happy with that. Like, who says that? And this is a home run threat. He's a freshman. He's going to make mistakes. That's what happens. But you know what? When we're competing for national championships in 2 to 4 years, Malik Curtis will be a national weapon, okay? I've said it. It will happen. When I say things, they get birthed into reality. And Malik Curtis, he's going to have mistakes this year, but he's going to get, I think he will be the main primary punt returner, maybe not in the Texas A&M game, but as the season goes along, and I think he's going to be outstanding. And I'm happy to see that they are recognizing something that I said yesterday, and I think that's the reason why they are doing this, is because of what I said, which is...
No doubt.
Like, that was tongue-in-cheek before everyone freaks out. Play your best players. Like, play your best players. I'm done with this. People love Wayman Steed. Fine, okay? Some other site says Wayman Steed's the greatest thing since sliced bread. Like, go hang out on that site, man. Like, we just say what we're hearing, what we see. So whatever. I'm not going to pick on Wayman anymore. I love the guy to death. Is he the fastest linebacker in the world? If you want to listen to some other site, fine. I haven't seen it. But my point is, play your fastest, most athletic, best players. If they're going 100 miles an hour in the wrong direction, well, at least they're not going 50 miles an hour in the right direction, Like, I'll take the 100 miles an hour and hope he goes the right way once in a while.
Here's the dilemma.
As they learn, those 100 mile an hour young kids will become the best players in the country.
They're also going to drop the ball back there against when they're at College Station in a couple.
There's going to be mistakes.
Is that okay?
Everybody makes mistakes. There's going to be a first time a player plays, and they're going to be nervous. And yeah, that's why I said probably not in the Texas A&M game.
He might not want to, but these first couple of weeks, I totally agree. I would let Malik Curtis field every punt.
I think he's going to be. I think he's going to be fantastic as a punt returner, and maybe they can move him to receiver, Gary. Don't you love moving every player to receiver who's not in the first team at a particular position?
That was
your favorite thing to do?
I would have tried him too. Him and
Jerry. He can play both ways.
I would have tried everybody out there, man.
I know you would have.
I would have tried Chris Graves out there. I would have tried them all out there and seen if anybody can do it. I mean, why not? And maybe they have. I have no, maybe they've done it and haven't told us. I mean, it's not out of the question. I mean,
they're not taking true freshmen and trying to teach them two positions, Gary. I mean, you're out of your mind.
It only takes 5 minutes to let a kid run a few fade routes if he's done it. If he did it in high school, it's not rocket science, okay?
Are you trying to get my brain to explode? Is that your goal?
Malik Curtis played offense. See, Malik Curtis was an offensive player in high school. Look at his game tape.
They all play both ways in high school, but they're recruited for one side of the ball for a reason.
I
They learn that
understand.
position.
But Malik Curtis and Chris Graves aren't playing very much cornerback this year.
That's not the point. They're learning. They're playing scout team. They're next
guy up,
whatever.
It only takes 5 minutes to see if they can play receiver. It doesn't take, let them run a few routes. Let them, just see how they look. Like it's not like maybe they don't look good doing it.
Here's what happened.
I would have had an open tryout. That's what Coach Gary would have done. Open tryout. If show me what you can do as a receiver. And I would have thrown Jacuri out there. I would have thrown Malik Curtis out there. I would have thrown Graves out there. I would have thrown Skinner out there. Anybody that, like Jay Collette says, can walk and chew gum, like play one position and just try a few reps in another and see what they look like. Walk and chew gum, Matt Shodell. I would have done it. That would have been what Coach Gary would have done. But it's fine.
Listen, you're what those in the coaching community call a Pop Warner coach, because you could play.
Dude, I was a Pop Warner coach.
That's about all you are.
Let me tell you something. I was one of the best basketball coaches and soccer coaches of the modern day generation.
Listen,
up in Cooper City, my team won championship after championship after championship. I had to retire from coaching to give other people a chance to win championships.
You know how you can tell a great coach? Do you know what the number one factor of knowing who a great coach is they're very humble. And I have to say, Gary, you are.
Have you ever heard me talk about it? Have you ever heard me even discuss it on this show? Never. And I won at least 10 championships, at least. Like, it was almost like clockwork every year. When the championships would come, my teams would be playing.
Listen,
and I never bragged. I've never bragged. You've never heard me say words. You've known me all this time. You probably didn't even know I coached.
I did, and from what I understand, you changed your birth certificate to say you were 8 years old so you could dominate and win the freaking championship with your kid on your team, and that's not right. That's not right.
All right, listen, I want to talk about some of these stories that we have on the website because there was some good stuff that's gone on in the last 24 hours. Nothing that I was more impressed with than Kevin Steele and his session with the media yesterday.
You love Kevin Steele.
Well, here's what I love. Okay, this is a guy who has coached for 40, 50 years, whatever it is. Okay, he has a playbook that's probably like this thick, like full of all kinds of schemes for every situation, whatever. Well, what he's done is he's emptied his playbook during the spring and fall, and he's thrown everything at his defense. But if they were not good at it on the practice field, it went in the garbage. Okay, and I was so impressed with that. So many coaches screw themselves by force feeding their systems on teams without any regard whatsoever for how good those teams are at what they're trying to do. And to hear the new defensive coordinator at Miami talk about how he's paring his playbook down to only focus on the things that the players are grasping and doing well, that was music to my ears, man. And, like I said, I'm a walk and chew gum kind of guy, but that was, to me, a great revelation. Your thoughts?
Listen, from what I understand, Kevin Steele is getting the most out of his players by threatening them that they have to come to his house for dinner, and all he has is prune juice and beans and lentils, because that's what they eat. That's what they ate back in the day, man. That's what he grew up on. So listen, I love Kevin Steele to death. I think he is an outstanding defensive coordinator. Everyone's getting on me like I hate on Josh Gaddis. I didn't hate on Josh Gaddis. I had dinner with a friend who's a huge booster at Michigan, and I just said what he told me. Like, fans go nuts. I'm like, this is not what I think. I think Josh Gaddis is an outstanding coordinator. I think he's going to be a head coach next year. I mean, I don't understand. Like, I tell stories about what I'm doing in my life, and people attribute it all like this is me. Like, this is what I believe. Like, I was the Michigan booster in the sky.
You have a rep, man. You have a rep.
Anyway, Kevin, listen, I love both these coordinators. I think Kevin Steele is a genius, and I cannot wait. I cannot wait to see how each game plan is different, because he's been working really hard to make sure that his defensive players really understand a myriad of different roles they're going to have. and then he can tailor. At least this is what he's saying he's going to do. And I pray it's not too complicated, where these guys look like headless horsemen running around out there. I have to think after 50 years he'll know when a kid, quote unquote, gets it or not. So apparently he is going to be able to tailor his defense to whatever offense is thrown at them, and he can do all sorts of different things to confuse and befuddle a defense. Unlike Manny Diaz, who, people would say, oh, well, where was the second half adjustments by Manny Diaz? And there weren't any, because he just had one style of defense, and that was blitz, 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 blitz. And there was like a few different kinds of blitzes, but they were just, that's it. There was nothing behind that. And Kevin Steele can actually scheme you in so many different ways from everything that he knows and has seen. And the weird thing to me from yesterday in particular was, I'm a big fan of the coordinator being upstairs. I really am. And Josh Gaddis hit the nail on the head when he said he's been on the field, and the only benefit to him of being on the field is that he can speak directly to his players and see their eyes. And you can see if a player is like freaked out or not and calm someone down. I get that. But you know what? If you have good enough assistance, that's fine. And when you're up above, Josh Gaddis clearly stated, you do not see things on the field like you do up there. And he says that the quiet and the almost, it's not solitude, but it is a more solitude than on the field. It allows you to be more objective, which I am as a reporter, unlike Gary Ferman. And by being objective up there, he can call plays without emotion. And I think that's so important, so important. And Kevin Steele told us yesterday he's done both, but that he's going to be on the field, which I found very interesting. I'm not sure if that's more because he's concerned that some players aren't going to really get it, and he wants to be able to explain things to them. Because let's face it, Jamil Adai is a young coach, right? Charlie Strong is a super veteran coach, but he's the linebackers coach. And then the other defensive line coach, Rod Wright's a younger coach. Joe Salavea is, I believe, a younger coach. He certainly looks young. So really, there's two experienced defensive coaches on the entire staff. So is he comfortable?
What do you consider young?
Huh?
Like, what's young? Is 40 young?
Young means you've been at maybe a couple of places before, like major programs before. You haven't really been around the block that much, in terms of really haven't seen everything, right, from all the different programs. So I think Kevin Steele would never say it, but I think he would prefer to be upstairs. But I think he understands with this particular team and this particular coaching staff on defense, he needs to be on the field to be able to explain to the defensive linemen, who have two young coaches, coaching the defensive linemen, like, or to the coaches, like, you have to tell them this or that, or this is what they're doing to you, and this is how you fix it, Hello? Oh, boy. You talking to Kevin Steele?
Joe? Boom! Joe's 47 years old, Matt.
Yeah, that's young. Kevin Steele, that's young. Kevin, for a coach, that's young. That's young.
Matt says you're young.
Kevin Steele never...
All right, Coach. Have a great day. Yeah, bye-bye.
Unlike Josh Gaddis, who clearly said why he's in the upstairs, Kevin Steele did not seem to want to explain why he was going to be on the field. All he said is, I've done both. I'm going to be on the field. He didn't say why. So we have to just speculate. Why do you think he's going to be on the field, Gary?
I think he feels that he needs to be down there because he's the one that understands his schemes the best. This is a new coaching staff, and that he needs to be hands-on with the players during the game.
Yeah, and I think next year, we're going to see him upstairs because maybe. I think once they understand it, and again, this is why I say it's a little bit of a transition year. You have a whole new coaching staff. You got a lot of players left over from a previous recruiting regime, and just give them a little bit of time, man. There's nothing wrong with 8 to 9 wins. There's nothing wrong with that in your first year coaching. Like Gary said last week, this would be a 6-win team with Manny Diaz. I'm not sure that's true, but that's what Gary said.
Well, you wouldn't have all the reinforcements from the transfer portal. You might have some guys, but you wouldn't have this level.
Believe it or not, Manny's problem wasn't the transfer portal. Manny's problem was recruiting. But let's move on from that. I don't disagree with you. This would be probably a 6 to 7 win team at best.
Well, they wouldn't have the NIL program they have.
Right. No, it would be a 6 to 7 win team
together for Manny. I mean, I'm not saying that's right, but I'm just saying there's no way in the world that John Ruiz steps up with $10-15 million of NIL money if Manny Diaz is the head coach.
Right. So my point is, it's okay. It would be the same team pretty much. You add a few transfers, whatever. But I don't know why people are freaking out if they don't hit 10 wins. Like, it's okay. It's okay. And if they get 10, great. Maybe it'll be like when Harbaugh came to Michigan and everything's great, and maybe it'll stay that way forever. But if it doesn't, I just don't want fans freaking out like it's Mario's fault or the sky's falling. It's called a progression. People say, coaches use that coach speak all the time, that it's a process. And it's a process, man. And there's nothing wrong with that.
Well, we were hoping that part of the process was going to be a depth chart. And unfortunately, there was no depth chart. And Mario Cristobal really doesn't believe in depth charts, especially right now. He calls them organizational flow charts. And there apparently will be some type of organizational chart maybe later in the week. But from what we're hearing, there's going to be a lot of co-starters listed. There's going to be a lot of platooning. Kevin Steele, one of the things he told us yesterday was that he is 6 to 7 deep, both at defensive tackle and defensive end. So a lot of options, a lot of rotation, and it's not going to be so easy to put together a depth chart with this team. And Texas A&M, for example, is going to have to do a lot of homework as they get ready for that game on the 17th, because they're going to have a hard time figuring out who's really going to be on the field for Miami in that game. And I'm sure that the coaches are not going to make it easy for them these first couple weeks. So I thought Kevin Steele was really interesting yesterday. I love the fact that he is tailoring his defense to what he sees them doing best on the practice field. We also spent some time with Josh Gaddis, who really was overflowing with praise of Mario Cristobal. Was talking a lot about what a great experience that this is for him this year, because he's learning so much from Mario, who of course learned so much from Nick Saban and then put it into practice at Oregon. And Josh Gaddis feels that his time here at Miami is very much enhancing his career. And as Matt said, he and I actually agree on this, that Josh Gaddis is very close to landing a head coaching job, and it's probably going to come in the near future. But he had some very positive things to say about the offense. He really likes what he's seeing from Henry Parrish. He obviously loves what he's seeing from Tyler Van Dyke, Xavier Restrepo. And of the receivers, Matt, he said that we're going to see a lot of guys out there. And he's going to give a lot of those kids a chance to prove that the struggles that they may have had catching the ball in the practice field maybe don't necessarily have to translate over to game day. He's going to give them opportunities, and it's going to be up to them to take advantage of those opportunities, or I don't think they're going to see a lot of the field as the season goes forward.
I mean, we've beaten the receiver thing to death, but I will say that the two things I gleaned from Josh Gaddis, and I feel like we don't know him really well enough to say this for sure, but if it was just a typical coach interview in the same setting that it sounded to me like Henry Parrish right now is ahead of Jalen Knighton, which I thought was odd. He started asked about the running back, started talking about Henry Parrish is going to be amazing and really going to have big numbers and da-da-da. And then in the next breath, he says Thaddeus Franklin and Jalen Knighton are also going to be very good, which is a little weird to me. So maybe we'll see Henry Parrish as the lead back. I don't know. And then the other strange thing to me was just, I don't know. I can't put my finger on what happened to Jaleel Skinner. I'm actually the one who asked Coach Gaddis about that yesterday. I don't understand how he looked so good in the spring. Dropping a lot of balls in practice. Dropping a lot of balls, but I don't understand why, because he looked so good in the spring, and we were so sure he was going to lead the tight end room in receptions. And it's not that Will Mallory's not great, but they make Will Mallory sound like a superstar. And when I tell you, if you watched Will Mallory walk down the street, I mean, you'd say this guy's not an athlete. He's pigeon-toed.
Come on.
He looks off balance. It's the truth. Have you seen him walk?
Come on.
And then he runs.
He's a very good athlete.
Right. And then he runs, and it's the most amazing transformation you've ever seen. It's like the Hunchback. It's like the Hunchback of Notre Dame turns into Devin Hester magically. It's the weirdest thing. I mean, I talk about it with other reporters all the time. Like, he watch Will Mallory. It's like an old man with a cane walking. It's weird. And then he starts running routes, and he's just so natural and physical. But he does tend to get banged up a lot. And so there's a concern there, because Will Mallory is going to be on a limited rep count, it sounds like. That's not a great way to start the season when Jaleel Skinner hasn't stepped up, and your only other real consistent tight end has been a guy who hasn't done anything before, Elijah Arroyo, and you got a coordinator who really wants to rely on those tight ends, not just to be receivers, but to be super physical in the run game. And, I had zero concerns about tight end at all. I thought that was a great room until all of a sudden Jaleel's dropping these passes and Will Mallory's banged up the last week and a half. Like, I don't know. But so you're asking about the receivers. So now the receivers that we have question marks about have to step up big time, which is why I've been saying, and I posted on the message board 2 weeks ago, I said, am I crazy, or is the defense going to be really good this year and the offense might be the question mark? Which a month ago I would have been like, I never would say something like that. It's like Bizarro world, everything's turned upside down to me a little bit. So, I don't know if it's a concern or not. I don't know if it's going to all be okay. But if the defense is as good as I think it will be and should be, and if somehow the offense gets its act together, which I have concerns about, but if both sides of the ball are really good, then you will hit those 10 wins. My concern is it's again going to be that same formula as the last 20 years where one side of the ball is really good and the other side of the ball is just inconsistent, man. And my concern right now, as shocking as it is, with a Heisman Trophy candidate quarterback, like, I'm concerned about the offense. I mean, I can't get it out of, it's like this nagging thing in the back of my head. Like, why should I be concerned when Tyler Van Dyke is the quarterback? But for some reason, I don't trust the offensive line still. The receivers, I don't see, other than Xavier Restrepo, that guy yet. The tight ends now I have some concerns about, which I never thought I would, as I just laid out. So I don't know on offense what's going to happen. I don't know. And this is why you hope that Josh Gaddis really is as great as people at Miami think he is. Not at Michigan, everybody. Okay, at Michigan, people, for whatever reason, they're like, he can go. We're fine without him. But like he's got to figure something out with these guys and just get the ball to the right guys in space and scheme it up. I mean, period. If he can do that successfully, this team's going to be really, really good.
All right, so the running backs, I'm actually working on a story on this that's going to be on the website in the next few days. Henry Parrish is going to be the so-called starter, most likely, for a couple of reasons. A, he averaged 5.1 yards a carry in the SEC. Jalen Knighton has been 4.0 and 3.9 the last two seasons. Henry Parrish is better equipped right now to be the dual threat run pass, first down running back. But I'm going to go out on the limb and say that Jalen Knighton is going to be maybe the second leading receiver on this team. I think Jalen Knighton is a massive weapon out in space. I think Josh Gaddis has to have seen that in his film review of last season. I think that you're going to see Jalen Knighton catch the ball a lot on swing passes, short routes out of the backfield, different schematic things to get him open the way Rhett Lashley used to do last year. And I think Jalen Knighton's going to have a plenty big year. But he is your greatest playmaker on offense, with all respect to Restrepo. Restrepo's going to have a great season. He's a great possession receiver. Jalen Knighton's got that other gear, okay? He could take it to the house. And I think he's going to get opportunities to do that. But I also think it's important that you keep him healthy. And the way you keep him healthy is you don't have him spending a lot of time pounding his body into the middle the way they did last year. I thought that was a mistake. So I think that's what we're hearing without Josh Gaddis just flat saying it directly, that Henry Parrish is going to be his workhorse back. Jalen Knighton's going to be his change of pace guy that he features a lot in the passing game. And then he does still have Thad Franklin, and he's got the Devon Perry, and he's got Lucius Stanley, who just came as a transfer. And so he's going to have other guys when it gets like, if there's mop-up time in the game that he can put in there. But the brunt of the work is going to be Parrish and Knighton for sure. And that's the way I think that will play out. All right, we got a few more things that we want to talk about today. But first, let's hear from our friends at Life Wallet.
Me lastimé la cadera en 8º grado en una práctica antes de un juego. Si hubiese tenido Life Wallet en ese momento, mi proceso de recuperarme hubiera sido más rápido. Ser parte de este equipo es lo mejor porque me está abriendo puertas y puedo conocer a más personas. Mi sueño es llegar a la NFL y jugar con mi hermano en la NFL. Yo soy Life Wallet. Ahorrando tiempo salvando vidas.
Yo soy life wallet. I like that. Anyway, Matt, so a few more things left for us to talk about today of what's going to be on the website. We take a look and a shot at predicting what we think we're going to learn about Miami's offense in game one. And we've talked a lot about it on this show. I don't think we have to go into any more detail about the offense, at least this morning. But we take a little bit of a look at what we think we're going to learn about Miami's offense this weekend at Hard Rock Stadium. We take an inside look with defensive end coach Rod Wright, who is doing a great job with the defensive ends. He and Jason Taylor. We take a good look at that. We also had a story about that transfer, Lucius Stanley from UAB, a guy that we think is going to help on special teams. He's going to be a depth filler at running back. Great pickup at this stage of the game because, I mean, you're not like I said this on the message boards. You're not getting Herschel Walker a week before the season out of the transfer portal. Okay, this is a kid that's played a lot of college football. He's played against the SEC competition at times. He understands the game and what to do. And he was at Tuskegee Institute riding out the string. He went there looking for an opportunity to maybe play a little bit more than he was playing at UAB. And now he ends up at Miami. What a whirlwind experience I'm sure that is for him. But I'm sure he's going to enjoy it immensely. All right. We also have a recruiting story on the website today on a Texas standout who has recently picked up a Miami offer, and he says the Canes will be in his top 5. We'll be at practice this morning with a bunch of new stuff to report to you from there. We'll have more player availability today, so we'll have those stories on the website in the middle of the day. So a lot to keep you guys fired up and occupied as you get ready for Saturday's season opener at Hard Rock Stadium. Tonight, a program note, CaneSport Live, the season debut, and we're taking it this year to the video world. It will be broadcast on our YouTube channel, simulcast on our audio channel at Blog Talk Radio. We'll have both links at CaneSport.com for you. So no matter how you want to listen to the show, if you're on your phone, if you can get on YouTube, we will have that show for you in all those mediums. And we may eventually even take it to the Twitter universe as well. But for this week, we're going to just be audio and YouTube, and we'll see how that goes. So, Matt, I think that pretty much covers it for today. I mean,
I would just add that if Xavier Restrepo and Jalen Knighton are the 2 reception leaders on this team, that's probably not going to be a great sign for the downfield passing attack. Just my opinion.
That's my point. But I think that's what's going to happen. Will Mallory will be in there too. But, I mean, there is not a down-the-field deep threat that looks like he is going to put up any significant numbers at all. Keyshawn Smith will be able to get open deep against some teams.
You do understand, Gary, right? That when other teams realize there's no downfield threat, they pack it in. You have no choice but to throw down the field. Like these other defensive coordinators aren't morons, you know.
They're going to have to take shots to Keyshawn. They're going to have to take shots to Latson.
They don't have to take shots. They have to hit shots. That's what keeps the defensive coordinator honest.
I agreed, but you definitely have to take them. And, I think they will. And I think those guys will make a few plays here and there. But I do think this is a problem, as we've talked about. So we'll see how it goes here once we get going. All right, so we thank you so much for starting your day out with us. You see the info at the bottom. Please make sure you're a subscriber to CaneSport.com. Hit your subscribe button, hit your like button. Get ready for the season by downloading our app from your app store, whether it's Google or Apple. We got to do a quick update to it with now that the new rosters are out, but that app is available to you as well. Get yourself ready for the season with all these tools that we provide to you guys to enhance your experience as fans. So for Matt Shodell, I'm Gary Ferman. We thank you so much for joining us this morning on Good Morning CaneSport, and we'll see you tomorrow, everybody.